The Judgment Hour. There is a particular cruelty in being made to watch a thing you used to do, done now by hands that are not yours, done correctly, and knowing you will never touch it again. Ask any retired surgeon. Ask any deposed king. Ask me. I had been deaf for some years by then, 3, perhaps 4. I had stopped keeping the number the way you stop noticing a sound you've heard too long. The first year's shocks had dulled. I no longer reached for the gold in dying hands. I had learned that lesson the way you learn not to touch a hot stove. I had settled into the rhythm of the work, if you can call an avalanche a rhythm. Open the door, move on, open the next. But there was one part of the old life I could not settle into losing. One part that found me again and again, in hospital rooms and on roadsides and in the quiet bedrooms where the very old slip away, and reopen the wound every time. The judgment. You have to understand how it worked after. When I sat at the desk, I had been the hinge of the whole machine. I asked the question. I read the book. I sent them up or down. The judgment passed through me. I was, for all my sins, the place where justice happened. Now I was none of that. The doors arrived already decided. I never learned by what hand, the fathers, the books, some mechanism older than both. A soul came loose from its body, and a door was simply there, the color and shape of a verdict already reached, and my only task was to turn the key. I was not the judge anymore. I was the usher who walks you to your seat after the trial is over and the sentence has been read. I thought at first that this would be a mercy. No more weighing, no more deciding who rises and who falls, just the mechanical kindness of opening a way. I was wrong, of course. The Father does not deal in mercies, only in lessons that look like mercies until you have lived inside them. Her name, I'll give you this one, because she is the reason I am telling you any of this, was Ruth. 81. She died in a narrow bed in a narrow room that smelled of the lavender she had grown her whole life. She had been, by every measure I could see, a good woman. She had raised other people's children when their own parents couldn't. She had fed strangers. She had spent 40 years carrying water, in one form or another, to people dying of thirst. Her soul came loose like a long breath let out, and she saw me, and she smiled, because some of them do, the ones who have made their peace. And her door was dark. I don't mean black. I mean the absence of the gold, the absence of the climb, the door that opens downward. I had opened thousands of them by now, and I knew the difference the way you know a kind face from a cruel one, without being able to say exactly how. That's not right, I said, out loud, to no one because there was no one left to say it to. That's not right. I wanted to consult a book that wasn't mine anymore. I wanted to read the margins, to find the one lie, the one buried cruelty, the secret thing that had tipped her toward the dark. There is always a reason. The system, whatever else it is not random. Somewhere in 81 years there was a thing she had done, or failed to do, or lied about with her last honest breath, that weighed more than all the water she had ever carried. But I was not given the reason. That was part of it, you see. The judge gets the reason. The usher gets the verdict. I would never know what Ruth had done. I would only know where she was going, and that I was the one who had to open the door and let her go. I'm sorry, I said. It had become the only true thing I had left to offer anyone. Don't be. She was still smiling a little. I know what I did. I've known for a long time. She looked at the dark door without flinching. Is it as bad as they say? I had never seen what lay beyond any door, gold or dark. I don't know, I told her. I only ever see the threshold, Then I'll find out for both of us." And she walked through, my lavender-smelling saint, into whatever her one unspeakable thing had earned her. The door closed, and I stood in that small room and felt something I had not felt since the desk. I felt that I could have stopped it. That was the trap the Father had built, and it was perfect, and it took me until Ruth to feel its full shape, because I could have stopped it. Once. Not now. Now I was a key and a pair of cold hands. But there had been a version of me who sat at a desk with the authority to look at a soul like Ruth, and when the book hung silent in that grey neutral place between yes and no, to decide. To weigh the water against the secret and choose. I had held that power, the most sacred power there is, the power to be the place where mercy and justice meet. And I had sold it. Not for Ruth, not for any Ruth, for a silver stapler, for a gold watch, for a drawer full of other people's grief that turned to dust the day I lost everything. Do you understand the geometry of it now? When I had the power to bend a judgment, I bent it for gold, for the worst of reasons, for a man with polished emptiness where his heart should have been. And now, when I would have given anything still left of me to bend one judgment toward mercy, toward a woman who had earned it 1,000 times over in every way but the one that counted, now I had nothing. No desk, no book, no say, only the key and the door and the obligation to open it. The Father had not taken justice away from me. That would have been simple. He had done something far more exact. He had sentenced me to stand inside justice forever, close enough to touch, and never again be permitted to move it by a hair. The same sentence as the gold. The same sentence, exactly. Everything I had ever wanted, everywhere, always, and not one grain of it mine. And lest you think it was only the Ruths that broke me, let me tell you it cut the other way too. That was worse. I'll spare you his name. He died in a clean bed with clean hands and a clean reputation, an old man mourned by a whole city, and I had collected enough souls by then to feel the rot coming off him like heat off a road in August. The things he had done, to children, I think, the system did not show me, but death develops an instinct, should have opened the floor beneath him. His door was gold. He had told the truth, I suppose, when his hour came. Or his particular evils, monstrous as they were, had fallen a hair short of the line that not even honesty can cross. Or there was some calculus in the book I had never fully understood, even when the book was mine. Whatever the reason, and again, I was not given the reason, the door that opened for him was the climb, the light, the same gold that had swallowed gentle Mrs. Henderson a lifetime ago, and would have swallowed Ruth if her secret had weighed an ounce less. I stood there for a long time. The dead can't tell. He was already drifting toward his unearned light, grateful, smug, saved. And I thought, I could send you down. The key is in my hand. I couldn't, of course. The door was decided. The key only turns the lock that is there. But God, I wanted to. For the first time since I had fallen, I wanted to corrupt a judgment again, and this time it would have been for justice, for those children, for the right reason in every possible way. And I couldn't. The power I had thrown away for gold would have been in that one moment a holy thing. That is the joke at the center of everything the Father made of me. He gave the power to bend justice to a creature who would only ever bend it wrong. And then, the instant that creature finally wanted to bend it right, he took the power away forever and sat him down to watch. I opened the gold door. I let the monster climb. It is the worst thing I have ever done, and I did it by doing nothing at all, which turns out to be its own kind of education. And then there was the hour I understood the scale of it. I don't experience the deaths as a list. I want to be clear about that. I experience them as a pressure, a constant weight of where I am needed, 2 of them every second, never stopping. But once, I think, the Father allowed it. The way He allowed the free day, a lesson dressed up as a glimpse. For a single hour, the weight resolved into something I could see. I saw the ledger, not my old book, that worn and dignified thing that had shown me one question at a time. This was the true ledger, the one underneath everything, and it did not show questions. It showed names, every name, every person alive on the earth in that moment, billions of them, written in a script that hurt to look at directly, the way the sun hurts. Beside each name, a date that had already been decided. Beside each date, a door whose color had already been chosen. Billions of doors. Billions of verdicts, every one of them reached without me. Every one of them mine to open, and none of them mine to judge. The newborns whose dates lay 80 years off, and the newborns whose dates lay 8 hours off, side by side, indifferent. The good already sorted toward the dark, and the wicked already sorted toward the light, here and there, scattered through the impossible pages like errors that were not errors, because the system does not make errors, only verdicts I am not allowed to understand. That was the judgment hour. Not an hour at all. A single unbearable glimpse of the total reckoning. All of it, everyone, the entire human race already weighed and filed and waiting for me to walk them to their doors, 1 death at a time, 2 a second, until the last name on the last page, after which, presumably, there would still be no rest, because I would have spent an eternity getting there. A man can carry 1 death. He can, if he must, carry 100. He cannot carry billions, and he cannot carry the knowledge that he is forbidden to alter a single one, and he cannot carry the memory that he could once have changed them and spent that power on a watch. So he stops carrying, not by choice, by necessity. The way a spine loaded past its limit does not bend, it simply gives. That was when I began to go numb to the verdicts. Not all at once. Ruth still lived in me. She lives in me now. But after her, after the monster, after the ledger, I stopped letting myself feel the rightness or wrongness of where the doors led. I had to. To witness billions of judgments and care about the justice of each one is not endurance. It is suicide, for a thing that is not permitted to die. So I made myself into something that did not ask whether the door was fair, something that only asked whether it was open. I told myself this was peace. I told myself it was acceptance, even wisdom, that a being like me had no business judging the judgments of whatever sat above me. I told myself a great many things in those years, and I have noticed since that the stories we tell ourselves are always most elaborate precisely when they are least true. I was not becoming wise. I was becoming a machine. But that, the schedule, the triage, the slow surrender of the last human parts of me, is a story for another time. I still open dark doors for saints. I still open gold ones for monsters. I have done it more times than there are names in that terrible ledger I was shown, and I no longer let myself feel it because feeling it would unmake me, and the one thing I am not permitted to do is end. But sometimes, in the pause between one death and the next, and the pause is shorter than a heartbeat, though I have learned to live whole lifetimes inside it, I think of Ruth, walking toward her dark door without flinching, finding out for both of us. And I think that was the hour I was truly sentenced, not the day the Father changed my body, the day I learned that justice would go on forever, perfect and terrible and entirely without me, and that I would carry the weight of every verdict and be permitted to move not one. That is the weight of judgment. It does not fall on the judge. The judge gets to decide, and deciding, whatever its agonies, is a kind of mercy. The weight falls on the one who can see and cannot judge, and must open the door anyway. It falls, in other words, on me. Forever. End of episode 3.